Because I'm driving, so I can't do this. And a former Chief Justice of India is just sitting next to me, so I can't actually break the law.
One day I overheard my father telling my mom, he told her in Marathi, he says, Prabha, ha tabalji honar hai. This boy is going to become a tabla player. When I was in school, we had this chole bhatura wala in school, and we would split one bhatura between friends. My father was the tea maker at home. चाय वो उनके हाथ की चाय हम पीते थे. So I picked that up. So as a judge of the High Court, मैं चाय बनाता था, for my wife and me. My mother would always stitch shorts for us, which were somewhere between the knee and the ankle. Was because as we started, growing in height, those shorts would last longer for us. Every time now I drive, particularly in cities other than Delhi, I try and look out to see if there's a footpath. Most of our footpaths are encroached.
Yes.
Or they're in the process of road widening. How do you expect a person in a wheelchair or on crutches or someone who has a visual disability to walk on the road? As a lawyer, there's a great amount of fun in the repartee which takes place in the court. Sometimes you have a little bit of a tiff with the opponent. You might sometimes even have a little bit of a tiff with the judge. What is art if you don't allow for controversy? Right? I'm loving being a citizen in the private space.
Okay.
I spent most of my working life first as a lawyer and then as a judge. Initially in the High Court and then in the Supreme Court in public glare. As a lawyer, you are in public glare when you speak.
Agreed.
In a judge, people are watching every step, every word that you speak, every judgment that you deliver. So it's nice to enjoy a little bit of privacy as well, in the private space.
Do you remember, the first time when somebody called you or addressed you as Justice Chandrachud?
A very funny thing happened actually.
Okay.
Which was that soon after I became a judge and I had moved into my my official residence, the service accommodation, as a judge.
Mumbai?
In Mumbai, yes, in Mumbai. Someone called in the morning and I said, can I speak to Justice Chandrachud? So my immediate response was, you've contacted the wrong number. So please, I'll give you the number. It was 22042474, my dad's number. And I said, that's where you will get him. So that person recognized my voice. He said, no, it's this Justice Chandrachud I wanted to talk to, not that Justice Chandrachud. So for me, really, there was only one Justice Chandrachud, which was my father.
And how was the experience like? You were a celebrated advocate, you were a celebrated lawyer, and then you switched to being a jurist, and then it's a different world, right?
Oh, it's a completely different world, when you cease to be a lawyer. Because one thing about, being a lawyer is that you're constantly with people.
True.
In the court, you're not just with your own juniors. I had a set of juniors who are now incidentally doing brilliantly for themselves in life. But, I had, you're constantly in touch with your clients, people who get cases to you. You're in court talking to your opponents, to other lawyers, because I always used to joke that, it's the clients who fight, lawyers never fight. So even when you're with your opponents outside the court or in court waiting for a case to reach, you're talking the most random stuff. Cricket matches, something maybe funny about the judge or something like that. So suddenly, from being in such a public space as a lawyer, when you become a judge, you're really isolated.
You can't talk to anybody.
You can't talk to anybody. You just have one or two secretaries in the High Court. You have your usher who brings you tea. You might meet some colleagues at lunch. But actually, it was quite an emotional change for me because, in the evenings particularly, especially after a hard day's work, my juniors would come and say to me that, let's go and have a dosa at an Udupi joint, in the fountain area where I had my office. There was this chap called Raju Sandwichwala, who had in just opposite my office.
Okay.
And he had this wooden platform, which he had put up on the road. And he even had a telephone. Those are not days of cell phones. And people would just call him up and say that, Raju, char sandwich or teen cutting. Teen cutting was the Mumbai cutting chai.
Yeah.
And he would, put everything on a tray and get it to our office. So it was a lot of fun. There was a lot of serious work going on, obviously, in the chamber. But this sense of camaraderie. And somehow or the other, I felt that the sense of camaraderie, on the bench in the court gets a little diluted.
Okay.
Of course, with exceptions. In the High Court, you've known many of your colleagues because they were colleagues at the bar, and you're younger as well. I became a judge when I was just 40. I was asked to become a judge when I was 38. And so many of your colleagues are in the age group of 40, 45,
Right.
really in those days 45 to 50, some even older. When you come to the Supreme Court, you come from different parts of the country.
True.
And you may not have met many of your colleagues before you became a judge or before they became judges.
Tell me honestly, which was more fun, not from the impact point of view, like the social impact point of view, like being a lawyer or being a jurist?
Two different worlds, really, completely two different universes. You need good lawyers in the system, who can speak truth to power.
True.
Because, lawyers are traditionally fearless. They will take up causes irrespective of political affiliation.
Agreed.
You take up a cause just like a doctor because someone came to your office. You don't necessarily take up a cause because you always believe in what your client is espousing.
True,
But
true.
you owe a duty
Yes.
to every citizen who is entitled to legal representation.
True.
So that's the one thing about being a lawyer. I never, speaking for myself, I didn't believe necessarily that the position which I was arguing in a court was the morally correct position.
Okay.
Because sometimes, a lawyer who appears for a client has to ensure that within the parameters of the case which was given to them, they do the best that they can. You are taking up a case because you're paid to argue that
Agreed.
point. You're not taking up the case because you believe in that case. So, going back to your question as to which is more fun, as a lawyer, there's a great amount of fun in the repartee which takes place in the court.
Agreed.
Sometimes, you have a little bit of a tiff with the opponent who is taking up the cause for the other side. You might sometimes even have a little bit of a tiff with the judge.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of fun in the life of a lawyer. In the life of a judge, I wouldn't say there is fun, but there is a sense of fulfillment.
Agreed.
But of course, judges also have their moments of entertainment, fun. You go out on, court picnics, or you go out on court outings. During the vacations, you travel together sometimes. So, of course, there is a great deal of camaraderie among judges as well.
Makes sense.
You mix with each other because as lawyers, you can mix with the world. As judges, you only mix with judges. Because,
And your family.
And your family, of course, yes.
How's life post-retirement? What are you looking up to? What's the plan now?
25 years of being a judge makes your life very regulated. What time you wake up, your routine before you go to court, then you are in court. After court, you correct or edit your orders. You're preparing for the next day, and that's about what you do all 7 days of the week, except in the short vacations that you have. And incidentally, vacations are very crucial for judges. If we have an opportunity, I'll speak of that. Now, what I'm doing is I'm doing diverse things. So, of course, I'm doing my professional work. I'm doing arbitrations,
Okay.
including a lot of international arbitrations.
Very good.
I'm also a consultant. So people ask me for my advice, either written or oral. But quite apart from that, I don't want to spend the rest of my life only being an arbitrator and a consultant, which is important, by the way,
Agreed.
because, being away from the profession for 25 years, your finances get depleted, but so I have to be in a position to sustain myself and my family. But I also am going to be teaching a course at the National Law University of Delhi.
Okay.
Next year, I've been invited to be a visiting professor at the National University of Singapore for a short while.
Wow.
And I've been traveling the length and breadth of the country, going to universities,
Okay.
Speaking on topics which are very close to my heart, like disability, gender, following a vegan lifestyle, and of course, writing. I mean, this book has given me an enormous ability to reach out to people, to talk
People
to
who are
young
watching
people.
it on camera, let me just this is the book we are talking about. Rest we'll put the B-rolls and everything in the video because I'm driving, so I can't do this. And a former Chief Justice of India is just sitting next to me, so I can't actually break the law. Coming to the book, actually, in one of the chapters you mentioned about IDIA, increasing diversity through
Yes.
increasing accessibility.
Yes.
And you spoke about Shamnad.
Shamnad Bashir,
Shamnad.
yes.
You also have two daughters who have special needs. Why are we not able to cater to special needs? I was watching a video a few days back on Instagram. A guy is standing in front of a park, public park, in a wheelchair. He's saying, see, that's the problem. You have actually put a lock in this whole gate and only the turnstile is open. How do you expect me to step into that garden and the park? How do we solve this? And especially from a policy level, not only like from with the help of NGOs and everything, but from a policy level.
First, about Shamnad Bashir, who initiated this idea movement. Shamnad unfortunately passed away, and in very tragic circumstances. But I mean, his life is an indicator that one person can be a real agent of change. And the law traditionally was a discipline where people with connections got in, very highly networked. He completely altered that. And actually, the 5-year law course now, where you have competitive entrance tests, so students from all over the country are now becoming lawyers, from not just the metros or the tier 1 cities, but the tier 2, tier 3 and other cities as well. Students with rural backgrounds, students with a marginalized background. So they are really coming into the fore. So Shamnad really began this movement of actually encouraging people who came from less privileged backgrounds to seek the benefit of legal education. So coming now to your question on disability, yes, we have two girls. They have Priyanka and Mahi, our daughters, who are children with special needs, but they are amazingly bright in the mind. They have a condition called Nemaline myopathy, which is really a problem essentially of the muscles, of the respiratory tract, which makes all forms of their muscles, including swallowing, very weak. More on that if we get an opportunity to speak on that later. But, yesterday I got a letter, a beautifully handwritten letter from a young student, a girl, who did her education. She is a special needs person. And she is, despite her disability, she's spoken about, her having serious problems clearing the 10th board, going to classes, her 12th board, then she did a bachelor's in arts. She's from Rajasthan, from Jhalawad in Rajasthan. And then doing a master's, and now she's doing more specialized education. And something which she said in her letter really just completely broke my heart, and which was that she said that when she went to school and later on to college, she didn't use a toilet for between 10 to 11 hours every day, for the reason that there was no ramp to access the toilet. Now, can you imagine a young girl of that age? She has a menstrual periods, so she can't use the toilet for 10, 11 hours, for the simple reason that there was no accessibility to the toilet. And how many such students would be able to overcome that hardship and actually ensure that they can achieve what she did? So that really tells us a lot about our private and public infrastructure. Talking about private infrastructure, after I laid down office as Chief Justice of India, we had to find an alternate home on rent in Delhi. Kalpana and I must have seen at least 70 of more possible places to stay. Every place that we visited, either there were no ramps, or there was no lift, or you had to actually walk a few steps to go to the lift, which meant somebody has to lift the wheelchair. Now, that does not provide for dignity to the person in a wheelchair. I have wonderful old staff who have been working for us, but our girls are now, our daughters, they are 16 and 14. And it's not consistent with their dignity that somebody lifts either them or their wheelchair onto the next level. But this reflects really, the state of infrastructure. Bathrooms, in most flats we have seen, bathrooms are so small, the doors are so small, the doorways, that a wheelchair cannot enter the bathroom. Once you're inside the toilet, a wheelchair cannot turn around to use the WC or to go into the bath area, the bathing area. We are driving. Every time now I drive, particularly in cities other than Delhi, I try and look out to see if there's a footpath. Most of our footpaths are encroached,
Yes.
or they are in the process of road widening. The area for footpaths is reduced and reduced further, with the result that how do you expect a person in a wheelchair or on crutches, or someone who has a visual disability, to walk on the road? I had cases as a judge of the Supreme Court where a disabled person who was really bright appeared for the NEET examination, the National Eligibility Cum Entrance Test, cleared the exam, was qualified enough to get admission to, say, a government medical college in a place like Mumbai, which is extraordinarily difficult. So that kid must be brilliant.
Brilliant.
But was told that because your disability is, say, above a benchmark, say 80%, we can't give you admission to medical college. And that person was repeatedly assessed by different medical boards, all of whom said that no, that person cannot pursue medicine. Until we found a very good doctor, Dr. Satyendra Singh, who has worked in disability. He himself suffers from disability.
Okay.
And we requested that doctor to examine this person. And the final assessment was that, well, if actual accommodations are made for this person, that person can be a doctor.
Wow.
And we passed an order directing that individual should be admitted to medical school. These are not just super achievers. Why should we expect that people who suffer from disability should be super achievers?
Agreed. Why?
Yeah, do we expect each of us to be super achievers? No, not at all.
Dil ki baat bol di.
Somebody can be a painter,
Yeah.
somebody can be, a medical doctor, somebody can be a chef, somebody can be a poet.
There
Anything.
are very good exampents of lawyers.
Absolutely.
Some amazing lawyers.
Oh, absolutely. We had a lawyer in Mumbai, Miss Mamnani. She was the first person who came to my chamber to tell me how a person suffering from visual disability, how she navigates the space. So, these should not become one-off events, but this infrastructure, I believe the country must establish, and I think the government is serious about it. I know that Niti Aayog is doing a lot of work on, the next step forward for making sure that, the disabled are able to participate fully in society. Just like women, for instance, women are not disabled, by the way. I'm just giving you an example.
No.
If you exclude women from the workplace, 50% of your population would not have the benefit of contributing productively to the development of the nation.
True.
Likewise, the disabled are a much smaller group, but if you exclude them, you are excluding them from contributing to their lived experiences for the well-being of the nation.
How's your equation with everything in general? Like your childhood would have been very different from other judges' childhood.
Abir, actually, I belong to a middle-class Maharashtrian family. Traditionally, our family was a landed family.
Okay.
With land in a village called Kanersar, which is a rural community about 2 hours from Pune.
Okay.
Where we still have a family home which was constructed in around 1750.
Wow.
And
you visit there?
Yes, I do visit there. I should be going in the next month as well.
Okay.
It's a family which has been traditionally dominated by women. So one of my great-great-grandmother, she moved from the village to Pune with her 4 sons and 2 or 3 daughters. She mortgaged her entire jewelry in those days because she thought that she must get education for her children. And that's how one of her sons became an FRCS from London in the early 1920s. Another went to London for MRCP. All the daughters were educated. They learnt English. They had special tutors who taught them in the city. They all came and took a small room. One son became a lawyer, who became then really the mentor for the rest of the family. and that's the background of the family. So when my parents moved from Pune to Mumbai, when my father became a lawyer, they both lived in a small chawl in Dadar called Madhavadi, and then they became paying guests with a couple in Dadar when they started doing a little better. And my mother would tell me this story about how we would have a ceaseless stream of relatives coming to visit them in the chawl in Dadar. And she would cook for everyone. She would even take all the clothes, in a bucket in her hand and go and wash the clothes for the family on the nearest water tap. Fortunately for me, by the time I was a late-born child, my parents had made that progression to a much better quality of life because of my father being successful as a first generation lawyer in Mumbai. Not the first generation lawyer in the family, but the first generation in Mumbai.
And that's a very big thing, right?
Yeah, and my sister and me, my parents didn't go to an English medium school. They went to a Marathi school where their first interface with English was when they were in Standard 7. And my sister and I went to an English school. So, going to an English school in Mumbai for me was culturally a bit of a shock because values at home were very different. We spoke Marathi. The other children came from very different homes. Many of them were from very affluent homes. And I hadn't kind of seen the kind of affluence which many of my colleagues in school, my friends in school had at home. So it was culturally very different from me. And perhaps I did face an element of discrimination in school, of not belonging, so to speak, to the kind of social strata that so many of my friends belong to.
Which is becoming a norm these days, I feel.
It is. It was very different when I moved to Delhi because, my school in Delhi had a much more diverse student population. And I felt so many which ways, the school was much closer to, what my ethos was. But, speaking of my father, he was my best friend when I was growing up. My parents were, there was no easy money at home. So, we had a very strict budget. Judges of the High Court made about 3,500 rupees as salary. My father had a take home of 1,800 rupees, which he would give my mother when the demand draft came every month, which wasn't a small sum in those days. I'm talking of the 70s.
70s, yeah.
But 1,800 rupees was all that there was. So to tell you something, something very interesting, my mother would always stitch shorts for us, which were somewhere between the knee and the ankle. Of course, they became very fashionable later on. But the reason why our shorts were stitched between the knee and the ankle was because as we started, growing in height, those shorts would last longer for us. So
typical middle class behavior.
Yeah, absolutely. And so many of my cousins would tease me, and they would tell her, just say, Prabha Mami, what have you stitched for him? So she would say in Marathi, "Arey Varta anga hai." Varta means growing. Anga means body. It's a growing body. So, my relationship with my parents was, we never felt a lack of anything because my parents never brought us up in that way. My mother would encourage us to make friends with, other students who belong to less affluent homes. So, just behind the place where we lived at Malabar Hill in the judges' accommodation, there was a slum colony. And a lot of our household help, as in most parts of the country, came from that slum colony. And my parents would actively encourage me to make friends with the children of those who worked for us. So I would go to their homes in the evening, say in a month, an auspicious month like Shravan, which is, of course, very, very auspicious in Maharashtra as well, as like in the north. I'd go to their homes in the evening, sit down on the floor with my friends and their families, eat with them. In those were days of rationing in Maharashtra, where, all the food grain had to be purchased from the ration shops. So, coarse rice and, dal, watery dal. But there was a joy in that, there was a joy. My parents never made us believe that, we were different from these friends with whom I associated with. And which made the disconnect between me and my friends at school even more significant. Because my friends in the evening were these young children who came from, less privileged homes. One of my best friends, who was Sudhir, I still remember his name, he always wore two pairs of shorts. And the reason why he wear two shorts were because, there would be holes in the shorts in different places.
Okay.
And that's why he wore two shorts. I think the willingness which my parents had and the openness of mind which they allowed us to cultivate helped me greatly in my years as a lawyer and as a judge. Because, just as I was growing up in a family which was a middle class family, but not a family which was doing well, at the same time we had this interface with the rest of society and India in that sense. Mm-hmm. When we would travel with my father, in our 1966 ambassador, my father would put my sister and me in the ambassador, and we would travel long distances into rural Maharashtra in our ambassador. Our one car, which we had, the family car, purchased in 1966. And my father would, as we went through the villages, he would explain to us. We stopped by, explain to me what rural life was all about. So our parents made sure that there was no disconnect between us and the rest of society.
But do you feel you can pass on the same thing to your next generation?
I think so, yes, in so many which ways.
Okay.
Later on in life, the equation between my parents and me changed.
Okay.
Because, as we grew up and our parents became older, the parenting was done by us with our parents. That's the beauty of our Indian homes. And now that both my parents are gone, Dad passed away in 2008, my mother passed away in 2014. And now the true parent which I have, in a sense, is my sister who lives in the US.
Okay.
And my brother-in-law, who are incidentally 14, 15 years older than me. And they watch over me. And, my wife and I, we are of course spouses, we are friends, but we do also an element of parenting, taking care of each other, when we are in times of need and times of distress. So it's been a very interesting life, so to speak. My father was the tea maker at home. Chai wo unke haath ki chai hum peete the. So I picked that up. So as a judge of the High Court, मैं chai banata tha, for my wife and me. Which stopped when I became Chief Justice of India. She always reminds me, you stopped making tea for me, when you came to the Supreme Court, actually, even before you became CJI. So there were fun times, happy times, sad times, which is part of the cycle of life, I guess.
True. Valid point. I was before prepping for this interview, I was just watching a few videos, and you mentioned about that how you are a big fan of Bob Dylan. Why do you love Bob Dylan so much? Even I am a big fan of Bob Dylan. That's the reason I'm curious. Why? Because every people have their own set of reasons to love
Bob
Dylan.
Dylan because of the political messages that he conveyed in his songs. But one of my interns gave me a book by Bob Dylan containing the lyrics of his songs. So,
okay.
But yeah, I've been fond of Bob Dylan because of the political message. But I've listened to music across genres, actually, because my mother was a classical Indian musician.
Yeah.
She sang for the All India Radio in those days. You didn't have all these private channels.
Yes.
She was actually a disciple of Gana Saraswati Kishori Amonkar ji.
Oh.
Kishori Amonkar is iconic. And I feel blessed that, Kishori Amonkar used to come and sing at our house and practice music at our home.
Wow.
And she would call my dad Bandhuraj. She would, she had, treated him always as a mana hua bhai.
Okay.
And she would call him Bandhuraj with affection. And she would come and sing or practice music at our home. So whether it was, her Yaman in the evening or Bageshri, I imbibed a lot from my mother.
How come you never picked up any music?
To be very honest, I learned the harmonium.
Okay.
And I could play the Yaman or the Bimpalas on the harmonium. I used to play the tabla very well.
Okay.
And, those were different times. I became a good tabla player.
Okay.
One day I overheard my father telling my mom, he said, just put that tabla away. This boy is only playing tabla and is not concentrating on his homework. So, I mean, no, I don't mean any disrespect to any tabla player.
Agreed.
You have had Ustad Zakir Hussain.
Yeah.
So he told her in Marathi, he says, Prabha, ha tabalji honar hai. Prabha, he said, this boy is going to become a tabla player.
Yeah.
And of course, at those times, nobody believed that, nobody knew that, if you could become so well known as a tabla player, or, just as you could become so well known as a cricketer and make such a good living for yourself. Parents, middle class parents, wanted their children to become doctors and engineers, or, lawyers to a certain extent.
That's a safe option, I feel.
Yeah, of course. Middle class families had no fallback. So everybody wanted their children to become either join government service. In Maharashtra, there was a big tradition of, joining the civil service.
Okay.
India hadn't opened up. I mean, for the younger listeners, we didn't have the kind of economy which we have now. Of, startups and the IT industry. And, today, I mean, our younger generation is so confident. वो समय ऐसे था ना कि मध्यम वर्ग में खास तौर पर माँ बाप यही सोचते थे कि अपना बच्चा डॉक्टर बन जाए, इंजीनियर बन जाए, अच्छी नौकरी मिल जाएगी,
अभी सरकारी घर नहीं है तब खुद का घर बना लेगा, गाड़ी ले लेगा,
सरकारी नौकरी मिल जाएगी, किसी अच्छी कंपनी में नौकरी मिल जाएगी. So I don't blame our parents. I mean, I feel that, sometimes I feel I listen to a lot of music even now.
Okay.
I've been trying my hand at learning how to play the piano. It's undergone a hiatus over the last few months because of my book.
When was the last time you played tabla?
When I was a child. But I still listen to, I love listening to Zakir Hussain, particularly in his jazz group.
What amazing fusions he had.
What amazing fusion. So my parents listened to a lot of Indian music, classical music.
Okay.
But my parents also, not my mother so much, but my father loved Western music as well.
Okay.
So, when I was growing up, I would listen to pop music. And to his eternal credit, he never stopped me from blasting, pop music. So I would be in my room, as a 16, 17-year-old blasting Western music. And he would never stop me.
That's why the exposure to Dylan and ABBA.
Yeah, I mean ABBA. He would never stop me. And he would come and sit there in the evening and just listen to that music as well. I listen to a lot of ghazals as well. So I even now I listen to a variety of music, including Hindi film music of the 1970s, 1980s, the growing up years.
Say 2025.
No, 70s, 80s. And I have some great friends. You talked about friends you make and do judges are fun. I have some wonderful friends on the bench whom I have formed eternal friendships with.
Okay.
One of my colleagues is Justice V. Ramasubramaniam.
Okay.
And Ram, as I call him, Ram is a wonderful source of music. So I exchange music from Maharashtra with him, and he will send me some great music from from down south. Wow. So if he picks up something, he will send it to me, and I send him a WhatsApp from a YouTube video which I've watched. So you have different friends at different levels. You exchange a lot of these things in book readings.
And what are the kids listening to?
Oh, the kids have an eclectic taste in music.
Okay.
I mean, Priyanka and Mahi come from a small village in Uttarakhand.
Okay.
And they both speak impeccable English. You have to strain a little bit to pick up what they are saying.
Okay.
Because obviously, speech is one of the things which is affected. But they have an eclectic taste in music. So one of the things which they would do is that they would load the music which they are listening to on my cell phone.
Okay.
So as during my years in the Supreme Court, as a judge of the Supreme Court, when I was going to the Supreme Court from our home, I would typically switch on something that Priyanka and Mahi had loaded onto my on my cell phone.
Okay.
So I would listen to a lot of their music.
And what was that?
A lot of interesting stuff. I loved Adele, actually. I mean, I particularly like the songs of Adele, Christina Perez. Mahi has been
Christina
listening.
Perry?
Yeah, Perez. Yeah, Perry.
Perry,
Sorry,
yeah.
yeah. I pronounced it wrong.
No, maybe I'm wrong.
No, you're right, probably. I mean, I have to
1,000
make
years.
A thousand years.
Yeah.
So Mahi has introduced me to Christina Perry, and of course to Adele, and a whole lot of other music which these girls keep on listening
Wow.
to. So I had this PSO, so
Okay.
who would sit up in the front seat of the car, where we are sitting now, where I'm sitting now. And if I listen to ABBA or something, I could watch him nodding his head because he wanted me to listen to something like
Something
Pandit
else.
Jasraj, or so on a visit, I would just listen to whatever random stuff came to mind, and depending on your mood, those 7 minutes or 10 minutes to the court. And so on a given day, if I was listening to something like Rani Teri Chiriyo Gopal, I don't know if you've heard that by Pandit Jasraj.
Okay,
It's a brilliant. And then he would be nodding in absolute approval that
Wow. Wow. I was going through your book where in one of the chapters you mentioned that you quoted one of your favorite films and a dialogue from there where you said that we don't write poetry because it's cute. I'm paraphrasing, because we write poetry because it brings us closer to to humanity. It gives us access to the world. I'm paraphrasing. This is not the exact words. But when we say this, we also just don't write poetry. We also perform. We also write. We also vlog. And often we have seen, Justice Chandrachud, that a lot of times people don't get that space in India. A stand-up comedian is put behind the bar just because he cracked a joke. A journalist is often put behind the bar. How do you see this evolve? And we were talking about Dylan just like 2 minutes back. Dylan wrote how many times? That was such a controversial song when it was launched because it triggered a very different kind of a emotion in the entire politics.
The object of all art and the power of art is its ability to shake us.
True.
Right? Even the power of music. I mean, I remember even as a child, when I would listen to a good song, I would start crying, and my tears would just not stop coming out. My mother told me this. And the power of art, I mean, a good poem, a good play, a good novel, is to shake you up from your what is your comfortable space.
True.
And I think that's the beauty of all writing or all visual art or a painting, that it moves you. I mean, it shakes you into out of your comfort zone. And I guess the same about all forms of Indian writing as well. I mean, whether it's say somebody in Marathi like P.L. Deshpande who used humor. P.L. Deshpande wrote some brilliant plays in Marathi, Ti Fularani, or Varyavarchi Varat. So behind the humor was his ability to pick up the foibles of the Marathi middle class.
Okay.
He could reach out to the aspirations of the industrial worker in a textile mill in Mumbai. He could go to a chawl and visualize what the life which people in the chawls were leading, and use humor. It was never derogatory. Like, humor was never derogatory of the lives of others, but he could talk about the lives of ordinary citizens and bring the happiness, the sadness, the feelings which emerged from their lives. And likewise in Hindi as well. Just yesterday or day before, someone asked me which is one of your favorite books, one of your 5 favorite books, and I said I identified Munshi Premchand's Gaban, because look at that ability of that novel to convey the excesses of a police state or pre-independence India, of what the police could do if they were not reined in. And that kind of completely gave me a different perspective on what could happen if you didn't have a robust legal system. And I think this is the beauty of art. of all art. And Indian writing is extraordinarily powerful in that
But
sense.
are we building a society where that art is fostered in a way that it gets the space to cultivate its own culture? Like what I was mentioning is, like, for example, if somebody cracks a joke, I know there should be a line, or whether there should be a line, that's also like a matter of debate. But whether there should be a line, and if somebody crosses line, what should be the output? So how do we ensure that? Because I'm sure there have been amazing writers in the past as well who have written something very controversial, questioning the polity, questioning the judiciary, or anybody in general. And they may have also created some kind of a problem for them.
Controversy, yes.
Yeah, controversy. How do we ensure that everybody gets their own space?
What is art, or where is the space for art if you don't allow for controversy? Right? The point of the matter is that once when I was sitting on a bench, hearing, a freedom of speech and expression case, one of my senior colleagues said this, that look, if I'm not mistaken, it was Justice Ajit Shah who said this. And he said that, if we don't allow for a full reign to free speech, then all that we would be watching is sports and cartoons on the television. And we don't want that kind of a society, right?
Sure.
Where you have societies where you can only watch cartoons and sports. And, when I was young, when you went to see a movie, for instance, you had these films division documentaries.
Yeah.
And, I'm sure the young today, the new generation wouldn't have even heard about this. And before the movie began, you had about 7 or 8 minutes of a films division documentary, which gave you an official version of the news of, say President Brezhnev coming to India, or Mrs. Gandhi going to a foreign country. It's a very, very tightly regulated source of news. That life has changed today. We have free sources of information. But increasingly, the point which you just made, that this is, I don't know whether it's a product of social media or just the age in which we live, we are increasingly becoming intolerant. And, this intolerance to me is a grave source of discomfort. Because is the space for free expression of views shrinking? And that, to my mind, should not shrink. Now, this is not a problem only in India. And let me not be mistaken to be critical of my own country, which I'm not, because I'm deeply, deeply, a person of a great sense of pride in my own nation and the achievements of our nation. Because I've seen the nation evolve over the last 65 years.
Sure.
But, it's not just the problem of India, but, across the world, we are not willing to listen to contrarian voices and to give that space to contrarian voices. For instance, a cartoon, a young student who says something which is, off the center. You find that young student is arrested and put into jail. That student spends the next 5 days in jail. Whether it's in West Bengal or it's in any other state. I'm not just naming West Bengal. It could be any other state. Any other state. So I don't want to be mistaken for someone who is critical of a particular political establishment. But what is the impact we are going to make on that young student who's gone to jail for 5 days, or someone else who's gone to jail for much more?
And it's a lifetime trauma, I feel.
It's a lifetime trauma, and the chilling effect on free speech. That you're sending a message that, hey, if you speak, you face this danger of being subjected to arbitrary arrest, and which I feel places the huge burden on the legal system, on civil society, to ensure that this does not happen. Because these spaces for political dialogue, for even trenchant criticism, must not be allowed to shrink. Having said that, I have my own views on, offensive speech. We are a society which is multi-religious, multicultural,
True.
multi-regional. And we have to have a degree of respect and a higher degree of respect for people who belong to different faiths.
Right.
So, in that sense, for instance, the American Constitution has an absolute freedom of speech standard. India, our Constitution has contemplated reasonable restraints in Article 19.2 on the freedom of speech and expression under 19.1a. Why was that done when the Constitution, when the First Amendment came in? That was done for the reason that, there has to be an equilibrium in society. And, it's very easy to say, well, I have an absolute right to freedom of speech and expression. But that right to free speech should not extend to being offensive of others. Particularly, when I say offensive of others, I'm not speaking about, political beliefs, but I'm speaking about religious beliefs.
Yeah.
Because people do value, their own faiths.
And India is a very complex country.
Extraordinarily complex country. And as a judge, the one thing which you realize is the complexity of the country. And therefore, governance itself is very complex. So for all these armchair critics who are ready to criticize, everything that is being done by the courts, I always tell them, come and sit in the hot seat. Governance is extraordinarily complex in a nation like ours. It's very easy to write an article in a newspaper, or it's very easy to write an article in a journal on constitutional law.
True.
But when you are taking decisions on the ground, it's a completely different ballgame.
Which has been the most, if you can answer, and if you are willing to answer, which has been one of the most difficult decisions for you as a Supreme Court judge, not only as a CJR, but as a Supreme Court judge?
As a Supreme Court judge, I'm not sure I can identify one particular case which has been the most difficult for us to decide. Difficulties as a judge come in layers.
True.
There are some cases which are extraordinarily difficult at a doctrinal level. Say cases which I would like to identify, as extraordinarily difficult from a doctrinal level are cases which come under some of the new legislation. Like, say, the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. Now, this may sound a little boring, but that's the truth. The Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code.
The way you said this sounds so boring is actually funny. I don't know why.
But a lot of work which judges do may appear to the rest of society to be extremely boring.
Because of the complex terms, I believe.
Yeah. Taxation. Last year I decided, a case which was called the Tola case.
Tola case.
The extension of limitation during COVID.
Okay.
And what was the impact on assessments which were delayed. Now, very, very complex to decide. Some cases are historically very complex.
True.
So, for instance, when we decided, say, the Article 370 case, extraordinarily complex in terms of understanding the layers of history embedded in the status of Jammu and Kashmir.
True.
So we had to understand the historical perspective. We read extensively, including on the role which was played by Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel in bringing over 400 princely states and welding them into one nation state, and to understand the vision behind a public figure like Sardar Patel in those days. Where you put yourself into India of that time.
True.
And then try and understand what was going on in the polity at that moment. Other cases which were extremely complex in terms of their impact on the future of the nation.
Okay.
For instance, we decided that privacy was a fundamental right. Now, the case which came up before us was not in relation to a particular law. The challenge to Aadhaar came to be decided in round 2. But the first round was, do we have a right to privacy? Because the then Attorney General argued that there is no right to privacy in the Indian Constitution. the Constitution does not contain the word privacy.
Privacy.
But yet we held that privacy is a fundamental right. Now, to what extent does privacy extend? Of course, it extends, in your own private space, like your bedroom, where a couple stays. It extends to your home. Does it extend to what extent? Does it extend to modern forms of electronic communication? Digital privacy, data privacy. These were much more vexed issues, which we had to think of for the future. The law is constantly lagging behind technology. Technology, in that sense, is changing so rapidly, particularly in the era of artificial intelligence, quantum computing. How does the law create institutions? How does the law create parameters for the regulation of technology? Does privacy exist at all in an age of technology?
Nobody knows.
Absolutely. I mean, we've been taking this route and driving, from my home now all over Delhi.
Yeah.
Our route is all mapped into your
Maps,
Google Maps, into your phone.
Yeah. Who permits that?
Yeah, if we had halted to eat a dosa or something, your phone knows what your habits are.
True.
I have switched off Siri in my phone, but everything that you do, a website which you go to for ordering a book online, a meal online, some music online, everything about your personal life is mapped, right? Which is why I haven't bought a smartwatch, because I'm almost tempted to buy a smartwatch.
Really?
But then, yeah, because it looks nice, it looks fun,
Yeah.
and it's great to know how many steps you're walking every day, and But at the end of it, I just feel it's just too much of an electronic leash. To have every aspect of your mental and physical health mapped into a smartwatch, even for yourself, I think is too much of an electronic leash. What to speak of others who are keeping a tab on that, right?
What about the generation which will actually have like a technology embedded into their lives, like Gen Zs, for example?
It's a completely different generation. I think they accept technology for what it is. They have been born with technology. So many of those people, so many of our Gen Z is born with technology.
True.
They live, imbibe, and breathe technology. For my generation, we have had to learn and make technology a part of our lives, which is good and bad in a way, because we were not as adept at technology. So when I was leading the technology project of the Indian judiciary as chairperson of the committee, I had to first understand the full range of what technology can offer. I think Gen Z is so much more adept with technology. For instance, my two daughters, I mean, if I'm struggling with an issue on my laptop, even when, say, 5 or 7 years back, they would just sort of, I would see, a little palm, navigating my mouse and solving the problem for me. But I think Gen Z takes technology for granted, and they're extraordinarily well versed with technology. Now that's good, but I also believe that they must have the ability to understand the ethical issues which technology does confront. So what are the ethical issues about, say, something like facial recognition software? It's important that we equip Gen Z, or that they equip themselves to navigating some of the crucial ethical issues of our time as well.
Makes sense. What do you think about the Gen Z protest, by the way? In Nepal, the entire country is seeing an uprising just by Gen Zs.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it just tells you that the power of the youth, and the power of the young.
Yeah.
I always have believed in it, speaking for myself, because I feel that every time I have interacted with the young people, I learn so much more than I can share, because they're full of ideas. They know what's happening around. And I think Nepal, in that sense, it was not just my reading, of course, is of course like anyone else who reads the newspapers and navigates the internet. It was not so much just about the shutting down of
The internet.
but a broader malaise in society. Nepal and India as well. India is also reaping the demographic dividend. Nepal is predominantly a country of the young.
Yeah.
We are not an aging society, which we may become 75 years down the line, but today we are a young nation.
Right.
But the benefit of being a young nation is that you have this huge young population which is aspiring to be productive and which can contribute to the development of the nation.
Okay.
But equally, there is a responsibility. The responsibility of having a more equitable society. Market reforms all over the world have exacerbated. Let me use a more easy word. They have exacerbated the inequalities in society, and I think that is one of the dangers. When I was growing up, there was a certain level playing field for everybody.
Okay.
Today the differences between social classes all over the world have become very, very pronounced, and I think
that is because of money.
That's because of access.
Okay.
Because access to all forms of cultural capital, access to economic capital, access to social capital is becoming increasingly skewed in different societies, particularly in the democratic world. That's happening in the non-democratic world as well. And I think the great challenge for us as a nation would be to ensure that we provide for equitable access. And the benefit of development must go down to the last Indian. So long as we are doing that, I think we are on a safe trajectory.
How do you see India after India 2047? Let's say 100 years of independence. Where do you see India going?
75 years. Let's first go back to the past.
Yeah.
I mean, I have my own experience of India from the 1960s onwards. I was born in 1959 November. And I've seen India between, say, the 1960s. My earliest memory would go down to 65 or so.
True.
To what we are today. We are not a country which is confronted with famine. Our country, little things which, in say the metropolitan areas, as I said, we had to import wheat in the 1960s under the PL 480 program of the United States, because we were a country then which had acute shortages of food. India today is a completely different nation, because particularly after the Green Revolution, India has completely changed on that front, from the agricultural front. Yet there is agricultural distress.
Yes, true.
Which we must confront. So while on the one hand we are a country with a food surplus economy, we still have agricultural distress, and that's something which we need to confront by ensuring conditions of dignity in our rural areas. That's critical to my mind. Going forward, in the next 75 years, I think India is increasingly becoming a country where the young would expect that they should have a share in the prosperity of the nation.
Okay.
And I think we need to create those avenues where prosperity would devolve to the young across India.
Okay.
One, by providing for employability. Take the area of education, there has been a spread of education in India, undoubtedly. Illiteracy has gone down. You find that fertility rates, for instance, are a very important indicator of development.
True.
Fertility rates have come down, more so in the urban areas as opposed to the rural areas. But so also in the rural areas, you find that rates of fertility are coming down, which is an indicator that the benefit of education has reached to women. Now, 50% of our population consisting of women, we have to ensure that women have avenues, not merely for education, but after being educated, that they have adequate opportunities for productive employment and for growth. Because we cannot afford to have an India in the next 75 years where 50% of our population is not working in tandem with the other 50%. This is one thing which I think we need to bring greater focus on. As I said, while on the one hand we have ensured the spread of education, we haven't ensured the spread of skills which would provide for adequate employment. Just having a BA or MA does not get you a job. So how do we ensure that the education which we provide to the young provides for skill sets which will enable them to have a share in the overall development and prosperity of the nation?
Makes sense. Valid point.
And I think we need to focus on the young, because you began your question by referring to what happened in Nepal. Now, our country has its own safety valves, right? And we have social safety valves, which are very crucial. The family is a very important source of the safety valve. The attachment with the community, even for people who are migrating to urban areas.
True.
The attachment to the community in the rural areas is another very important safety valve that we have. Religion is a very important safety valve for our society. So we have to ensure that these traditional safety valves, which have imparted a degree of stability to our society, continue to remain where they are, and that they are strengthened to ensure that there's this overall sense of peace and stability in society going forward.
We were just passing by a couple of roads where there was a red light and we stopped. I saw a huge people around us. When you first came to Delhi, did you see this kind of people, like this amount of population back then?
No, Delhi was, not at all as crowded as it is now. When I came to Delhi for the first time in 1971, Delhi was sparsely populated, not of course as wide in geographical coverage. Also, I felt that Delhi in that sense has become a lot more cosmopolitan now. People from different parts of the country who have made Delhi the home.
Including me, I believe.
Including me as well, you, me, so many like us who came here, settled down, and that's the change in Delhi.
But are you a Chole Bhature person now?
I'm not really, to be very honest, Chole Bhature person. I was when I was in school.
Okay.
When I was in school, we had this Chole Bhature wala in school, and we would split one bhatura between friends. And exchange, our dabbas, our tiffins, during break time.
But where do you go to eat now? Are you more of a food person in general, or like a foodie?
I think COVID has impacted me a great deal.
Okay.
I've become increasingly a home bird.
Okay.
I rarely go out to eat.
And you're a vegan, right?
I'm a vegan, and I just love home food, because I don't know whether it's a product of age, Abir, or whatever. I'm still a foodie.
Okay.
Both my wife and I used to love to go out and eat, because especially in Mumbai is a place where you can have all kinds of food. I'm told Delhi has become like that as well. But when I went to Allahabad and moved from Mumbai as Chief Justice of the Allahabad High Court, you just didn't have these n number of fancy restaurants where you could eat, or there was of course the coffee house. There was a place called El Chico's,
which was everyone's favorite in Allahabad. But apart from these 2 or 3 places, there was very little that you could go and eat in Allahabad. But, my 3 years in Allahabad and in UP reminded me that you actually need so little in life to be happy. You don't have to go to a coffee shop. You don't have to go to a fancy restaurant to be happy. You can have it just at home. Oh. So today in the morning when, the person who comes and cooks for us asks me, Aaj khane ke liye kya banwaye? So ever so often, Kalpana will tell me, hey, listen, I'm not going to do the menu every day. So I told him today, in the morning, I said, khichdi banao. So, I think...
The most comfortable way.
Yeah, when you grow up, you realize that, having simple, wholesome, home-cooked food is probably the best.
But why haven't you started making tea again?
I think I need to, actually.
Yeah. Okay. Towards the end, we are actually approaching towards the end. Just a quick question. I wanted to ask this because I actually wrote it. You mentioned about Justice Chagla in your book.
Yes.
And how he was a tall jurist, how he actually stood tall in front of Indira Gandhi, and he had his own way of speech. Do you feel that kind of structure and that kind of a relationship with judiciary had with the administration with legislature can exist in this day and age?
Oh, well, of course, yes. I've no doubt about it. I don't believe or subscribe to the theory that, our judiciary is subservient today, if that's what you were asking me.
Mm-hmm.
We had tall judges like Justice Chagla, Justice Subbarao, Justice Gajendra Gadkar, in more recent times, Chief Justice M.N. Venkatacharya. But I have no manner of doubt that, our judiciary has been able to stand firm when times have come which require that act of statesmanship, and our courts have been able to do that. Also, one thing which, Abir, I think you must recognize is there's a lot more scrutiny into the work which judges do today than there was, say, at the time when, say, Chief Justice Chagla was a judge.
True.
Because you only had the print media.
Yes.
Now, a lesser known fact, Chief Justice Chagla was one of the greatest judges post independence. The first Chief Justice of the Bombay High Court after independence. Now, Chief Justice Chagla, after his tenure on the bench, became High Commissioner, became an ambassador, became a part of the Union Cabinet. So in that sense, became a part of the political arm. Nobody at that time criticized Chief Justice Chagla for having post-retirement, been a representative of India overseas as an ambassador, or for that matter, having joined the Union Cabinet. Now, today, you find just so much of discussion in the media about, post-retirement assignments for judges. I'm not commenting on that right now. So far as I'm concerned, I'm very, very happy. Let me make it very clear.
Okay.
I'm extraordinarily happy.
But you won't join any political movement?
Let me say this.
Okay.
I'm extremely happy doing what I'm doing right now. I don't know which way my life takes me, but I'm very, very happy in the private space, being a professor at the National Law School, talking to young people, doing so many different things. Being an arbitrator, a consultant, and spending time with my family here. But the point which I'm making is, I think we are in a stage where we are critical of all public figures.
Yeah. Just because it's easy.
It's easy because, everybody has become a citizen journalist. You just find out a reason to flog someone in a constitutional position. But you must go back and also understand that, Justice Subbarao, one of the greatest judges that I have known of, and personally, was one of my icons. Subbarao left the Supreme Court to contest a presidential election. So we have to understand that, it's not that today, suddenly, you have descended into a doomsday insofar as public office is concerned. These things have happened in the past. The judiciary has emerged stronger. And you must allow for this space for people to take decisions, subject to, of course, observing fundamental rules of what's ethical. If democracy itself has to survive, because good democracy survives on the strength of good institutions.
True.
And though scrutiny is important, so is an element of trust. And the erosion of trust may result in a situation where you throw the baby out with the bathwater. This moral preaching must come to an end. Let's accept the fact that we have people on all ends of the spectrum, that we are a diverse society, and our nation is strong enough to accommodate for all diversities of ways of life, of opinion, and allow that space for everybody to lead their own lives.
Makes sense. On that note, I guess we should end this. I missed the last cut. I really enjoyed this drive. I really enjoyed the conversation. I believe whatever questions I had in mind, at least I asked those. I was slightly nervous because of the fact that I'm sitting next to a Chief Justice of India. मैं रेड लाइट ना तोड़ दूं, मैं कहीं से कुछ गलत ना कर दूं. I was just very, very cautious about that.
Really, you're not sitting next to the Chief Justice of India. You're sitting next to a retired army.
But
A retired army wouldn't take it lightly if you crossed a red line.
Agreed.
Broke a red line. I won't allow that.
Agreed.
I was being a front seat driver when you were driving. I was constantly keeping my eye on the road, a person.
That was the last time you drove a car. Are you like a person who enjoys driving?
I used to love driving when I was a judge of the Bombay High Court.
Right.
What happened was that when I went as Chief Justice of the Allahabad High Court, it became, that's when I stopped driving.
Okay.
Because A,
Forward the ball.
plus just a minute away from home.
Okay.
And then, you're driving an official car. So personally, I don't like to drive an official car.
Okay.
And when I came to the Supreme Court again, I had an official car. We do have our own car.
See.
But then, life was just court to home and home to court. There was very little life, in the Supreme Court, apart from reading your files and going to court, coming back, dictating judgments. So that really put paid to my... I haven't really started driving after I retired. And so...
Well, now, I guess, it's fun not to drive as well, right?
Yeah, also, I like to, I like to spend a lot of time at home, frankly.
Okay.
Reading, writing, that kind of a thing. So...
I really, ekdam dil se, I really wish you pick up tabla again. And I really love anybody who picks any music instrument. You will see a ukulele just at the back seat. There is a small little guitar ukulele.
Yes, I saw it.
Yeah. So,
I play that?
I do.
Really?
I do.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's a daily routine for me.
So, what's your favorite music?
I'm a hardcore folk lover. Yeah, this one.
Then
I am a hardcore folk lover. I really want to document Indian folk in the best possible way. I am still struggling with it. I have my own pace, but yes.
Oh, there's a cat there. Oh, be careful.
And we are here.
Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure.
I really hope I didn't bore you.
Oh, no, not at all. It has been one of the most exciting and meaningful conversations, and all across Delhi driving around.
Yes. Do you visit CP often?
I haven't been to CP for a while, but when I was in college, we used to go to CP because we didn't have all these malls. So we used to call it CP mein TP.